Welcome back to the pod. It's been a while since we had a little recording. Reasoning? Well, simply put, I slipped on black ice in 15 degrees or less temperatures and landed on my kneecap where I ended up splitting it by 3 centimeters, which is a pretty big gap, required surgery. And we were going to record a couple weeks ago. Did not happen. And because there was no one in the parking lot who drove, there was 2 cars drove by the parking lot. I called up to help 2 of those drivers. They did not stop for me. I eventually had to scoot myself down the stairs to get to my phone, which was on my bed, so that way I could call family. And then eventually I had to wait for Tyler to show up to get a leg sleeve on, so that way I can kind of move, kind of not really. And then I had to wait for a family friend to come take me to the hospital where I had x-rays done. They said, "You broke your kneecap." And I'm like, fun. And then all the other stuff kind of happened. Right now I'm feeling pretty mobile, feeling okay. Just today is just more sore than anything because it's tight. And sometimes there's a little knots to join, and because of everything that muscle is just reattaching, so there's several knots. My mother had massaged out the tightness and knots, and that felt amazing. And I cannot wait for rehab to start and get out the stupid brace that I need to write a really negative review on. Yeah, that summarizes everything. So today, instead of being in the studio, we're recording at 2 separate locations. Tyler's recording from his place, and I'm at my parents'. That way I could recover. Today's topic, for the most part, we're going to go over a couple other things too, because Tyler wants to go over inauguration. We're going to cover Civil War in the Old West time period. This time around, Tyler has actually has notes. Applause. And I, unlike last time where I had 2 pages of notes, I only have 1 page of notes. We'll make do.
I have 3 pages of notes.
Ooh, nice.
So I have a lot of stuff to cover.
Good.
So I will start with the inauguration of our current president, Donald Trump. The Don.
The Don, number 45 and 47.
47, yep. So everybody knows that, oh God, he's been writing executive orders left, right, center. Some of those executive orders, he revoked 78 executive actions from the Biden administration, and he declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border.
You mean the venal houseplant with dementia and Parkinson's? You kind of see written all over his face, and towards the end of his administration, I kind of started referring to him as Commander in Dementia.
No, he was dementia in chief.
Same. Oh God!
I think one of the greatest things he's done in the last, I don't know, how many days has he been president?
Let's see.
What are we at?
We're at 30. Well, the 20th counts as a half a day.
Yeah. So count from the 21st to now.
Okay, so we got today's 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 31, 30, so I'm at 7. I think we're I'm just going to pull up a calendar because I'm not going to count my hands. Screw that nonsense.
I don't know why you weren't doing the calendar in the first place.
Are you questioning me? I'm a cripple.
You can't put that on yourself.
Yes, I can. I did not have yak tracks on with terrible shoes, and I slipped on black ice. God. He's been back for about 3 full weeks now.
Yep. So one of the greatest things he's ever done in these 3 weeks he eliminated DEI practices.
And he's firing just about everyone left and right. Just about
firing everybody.
There's a new batch of firings. It feels like just about every day?
I would say so. Mostly every day, yeah. He's been firing people.
Now he's prepping to getting rid of the Federal Department of Education. Quite frankly, that should be a state issue. And The
let's hold on. Let's talk about that a little bit. The abolishment of the Department of Education.
well, it's not abolished yet, though. It's just laid groundwork for it.
He wants to abolish it. Let's just talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
I get that the Department of Education should be a state issue because every single state should, be able to run their own education system.
Yep.
But my thing is that what's going to happen to the millions of Americans that have loans, that can't pay for college? What's going to happen to them? They'll have to do private loans, and those cost more than federal aid.
I don't know. I don't think that goes like I think the loans are totally separate from the department.
No,
the department, I believe, is.
Nope.
Oh, they're not. I thought it was just based on education policy.
No, the Department of Education runs loans.
Oh, that would be interesting. They might just be moved over to like general public loans and all that.
Yeah,
things get interesting because I know the state of New York has played around with the system for a bit. I don't know if it's still active, but if you go to school in New York and you live in New York, you have to work in New York. I think especially in the field you went to school for like 5 years, and then all your stuff from your schooling goes away. But if you move out of state, like before those 5 years, then you have to pay back all of it.
Interesting. Okay.
And the last time I heard about that was about 10 years ago.
That's interesting. Okay. The other kind of two things I want to talk about more, a little bit more, is the Paris Climate Agreement and the stuff that the Department of Government Efficiency has done.
Oh, yes. Good old the Doge Commission.
I've read so much on what our country has been giving money towards, and it is the stupidest list of things I have ever seen.
Oh, hey, I'm pretty sure that Doge is like Iran and Rand Paul's wet dream in terms of just cutting everything out in existence.
Well,
that's a stupid spending.
Here, for example, I'll list some of these things on that list. So, we apparently in 2023 spent $2.1 million on a Sesame Street for Iran or Iraq. We spent $8 billion for condoms in Gaza. We spent $23 million for men to have sex with each other in South Africa. So that's just a little bit of the list. Oh my god.
So just so the people who listen know, I am also the producer for Vicky McKenna, and my brother's cat just kind of jumped up next to me. Anyways, and she went over some of the other ridiculous spending things. I forgot which ones they were. It's one was related to birds, and some sort of drug. It was worth that study was worth thousands or millions of dollars. I just started laughing right there. She looked at me. She's like, "This stuff should be funny, should be offensive, but it's the funniest thing ever because it's such a waste.
It's such a waste of our taxpayer money."
Oh yeah, it is. So much so.
Anyways, you want to start getting into our little history?
Oh, of course. So, the topic of the Civil War in the Old West is kind of conjoined, but although the American West was about just around the Civil War time period up to 1911-ish, it actually starts in Mexico before the country started with the Spaniards, and a lot of that was just normal everyday ranching life. They herded cattle. They had some gunslingers, and it was just small little towns. And then after the Civil War, which created a lot of the outlaws, they had that Manifest Destiny going on.
Oh God!
and that just kind of made like everything just kind of assimilated into a similar culture, while the East was getting much more industrialized, or as the folk out there back then would call it, the civilized world. And well, there's a lot of media related to, like, you have video games, you have TV shows, movies, and then some of the movies are more accurate and they're not very appealing. And then you have the Italian versions where they are the fantasy types. And then I know there are, like, Rockstar makes the Red Dead games, which are a fictional version of the American Old West, but at the same time, I love those games. I think GTA is stupid. Rockstar's Red Dead, fantastic. That's how I got the idea, was just by playing Red Dead.
I played Red Dead 1 and Red Dead 2. Red Dead 1 takes place in 1911, and Red Dead 2 takes place in 1899.
And I think there's going to be a third one at some point. They have that in development, actually. You just don't know if it's on Vanderlyn Gang or if it's with a different fictional group altogether.
Yeah,
or if it's going to be on the side of the Pinkertons.
It might be. Who knows? Let's see. Civil War.
So I was going to say, you're looking through your notes there, buddy?
I am looking through my notes.
Well, as I said, the Civil War created most of the outlaws, cowboys, and gunslingers, the Old West. The Old West was also known as the Wild West. I already talked about the time things. We got some famous gunslingers of Wild Bill, Les Hardin, Buckshot Roberts, Annie Oakley, Wyatt Earp. Of course, you got Billy the Kid.
Yes, that is true. But I kind of want to go back a little bit to the pre. Go ahead.
Oh, you're gonna go back to, like, the Civil War before those gunslingers showed up?
No. Way back, like pre-Revolutionary era.
Oh, you're talking about the Spaniards that I don't have notes on.
Uh-huh. No, I'm also talking about the British.
What do the British have to do with it?
The pre-Revolutionary era?
Well, I'm talking about, like, because if, like, I want to know, like, what the British have to do with the American West, besides, Canada.
The British have nothing to do with the American West, but they did try to get involved in the Civil War. If you didn't know that.
Oh yeah, because of the South and their, like, economy based off of slavery.
Right. So the thing is that the British, I think it was the British, the French, and the Spaniards all were trying to figure out what side we should support. British wanted to support the South if the North didn't win anything. I forget who the French. I don't have anything on the French. But I think they supported the North. And then the Spaniards were just like, we just want our goods.
Of course, because especially, like, hey, can we have our money?
Yeah, right.
Well, like, then, and then, Tyler, have you ever been out to Gettysburg?
I have not.
I have, but it's been a very long time. Last time I was out there, it was like 8th grade. It's a huge battlefield. It kind of felt like a state park, kind of.
Oh yeah, I've seen pictures of it. And
inside the building, there is, like, they have, like, a little presentation on it. It's a bunch of still photos and talking. It's very slow, and the narrator was boring, but the content was good.
Well, yeah, the content's always going to be good. You're going to know about what happened there, and just the narration is always boring. These types of things.
True.
What else you got on your notes there?
So if you didn't know, there were firearm regulations back in that time period, especially in, like, Tombstone, Arizona, where visitors were required to disarm upon entry at either the hotel or a lawman's office. There were similar laws in towns just back then in general. These laws were passed at the municipal level, only the municipal level. Weapons were allowed to remain in the residents' homes and outside the town's borders. People would have to leave a token they received for handing over their weapons to get their weapons back upon leaving town. Federal government generally stayed out of the local level of politics. And these laws were in place to promote peace and try to bring in investors and not have a bunch of just shootouts happen and duels going on in the middle of the streets, as entertaining as that sounds. And then when the sheriff and the other lawmen weren't around, sometimes if there was, like, the disturbance in the peace, the residents wouldn't mind helping with removing the problem is everyone had weapons at their disposal. They're out in the middle of nowhere in a small little town.
Yeah, and now that small little town is a ghost town.
Essentially. And then one time I went to a little antique shop and got this interesting little book called Civil War in Pictures. It's a bunch of drawing billboards and newspaper clips from the Civil War. And just upon reading it, I'll read a little passage for you.
All right.
General McClellan, whose able management of the campaign in Western Virginia is worthy of all praise, has been called to Washington to take command of the Army of the Potomac. His presence there will no doubt inspire confidence in the men. General McDowell will probably resume his former position as General of the Brigade. Brigadier General Roskins, I think I pronounced it correctly, it's spelled Rosecrans, who's so gallantly won the Battle of Rich Mountain, is to succeed General McClellan in command of the Upper Potomac. General William S. Rosecrans is a native of Ohio and West Point officer, having entered the military academy in 1383. And if I turn the book sideways, there is a picture of the Battle of one of the Bull Runs that was fought on July 21st. And the entire book is arranged with commentary by Fletcher Pratt.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I haven't really read I read a little bit here and there, looked at a few of the photos. I'm like, hey, this is cool.
Yeah.
Nice little pickup. Now, I know when mentioning the firearm regulations, no, that does not mean there should be a bunch of gun control. That the only reason why that kind of worked back then is because, as I said, they were trying to promote peace and bring investors to the western part of the country back then. And,
Indeed.
And it was all at the local level. Only local level stuff should be able to do anything kind of like that. And they're still able to keep everything by using homes, etc., etc.
I mean, even look at the Civil War, not even the Old West. Look at the Civil War. I mean, look how little our military was after the South seceded. You know,
Exactly.
We had not enough ammunition. We didn't have enough guns. We didn't have a lot of things.
Yeah, it didn't really have much of anything.
No, I think the only reason why we won is because the North got lucky because the South ran out of ammunition.
The South ran out of ammunition to an extent, but at the same time, you had General Grant, who was just him.
Yeah, you mean Whiskey Grant? Because he would just drink whiskey all the time.
Yes, and then once he lost so many men, he would just start sobbing, and then he just pushed through and just pound them into the dirt, as in like the Confederates. And then McCollum just kind of wussed out every time he saw General Lee.
Oh my God, McClellan! I can go
and
into
then
a whole.
And he's like, hey, I'm going to go run against Lincoln, and then fails
Immediately, goes to the Confederates and goes, I'm going to run against Lincoln, and fails again.
Oh boy. And then you had Stonewall Jackson.
God, we don't talk about Stonewall Jackson.
And then you also had Sherman.
God, who?
Sherman was the guy who went through Georgia and South Carolina, where
he cut off his supply.
And then he was like, all right, everyone's just going to live off the land.
And he used pirate tactics.
Yes, it just raised everything to the ground after being done with that area.
Yeah.
Hey, that stuff worked.
Yeah, it did. Back in the day.
And like at first, like Lincoln was trying to preserve the Union during that war, but then he was like, all right, we're going to make this thing also about slavery. So it's a double thing.
He just said, all right, fuck it.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Lincoln is generals of old men.
Yes, indeed. Too bad that one Southern sympathizer, Wilkes Booth, had to assassinate him. Had to kill him, but he was just enjoying a performance.
Yeah, he was enjoying a pretty good performance.
Yeah, everyone loved it, and
it was a comedy too.
Yeah, it was.
What is it called?
That's fine. I guess.
It was called Our American Cousin.
There you go.
Yeah, just
That's
he was just enjoying a comedy, and boom, back in the head.
Yep. And then all of a sudden, they didn't have anything to help him, and then the day later he was declared dead.
Yep. And then it was a nationwide manhunt for Booth, and they ended up killing him.
As he deserved.
Mm-hmm.
He committed a form of barbarism.
He did.
Yeah.
At a time where, peace was being
made. Correct. Well, being worked on at least. Because during that time, I think there were still a few like skirmishes here and there amongst the southern states until they just said like, screw it, fine, we're done.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much the Civil War.
In a nutshell. Tyler, you want to go ahead and preview the next subject, or do you want me to?
You can preview it.
All right, so Tyler's going to have a fun time with the next one. We're going to take a week off, and we're going to cover Castlevania. I just got done watching Nocturne Season 2 today. We're not going to talk about Nocturne because Tyler still needs to watch Season 1 and 2 of it.
Yep.
But Season 2 is so much better than Season 1.
So that week that we're off, I'm going to watch Nocturne, get all of my notes down for that, and
play all the games again, or as much games as you need to.
No, I already have a bunch of history on that.
You know just about everything about the Castlevania universe, and
pretty much.
I believe Konami is working on some sort of Castlevania game. I want to check out to see, like,
if it's anything, it's not canon.
That's true. Or I think you also got to check out the patent for it, because you can find those patents online.
Yes, that is true. But is there anything else you want to talk about today? I mean, history you could only go so far with history.
True, and it can't really contribute everything that everyone kind of already knows.
Right. I mean, we're already in, people already do history classes, so.
Exactly. So it's like, this is just generally like brush up on some stuff. Hey, remember, this kind of happened, exists, and this stuff's kind of cool. This is the forms of media it's in. And then you should totally play Red Dead if you haven't, because they're fun games. All right.
Yeah. And you can get them both on PC, console.
Right. And then, like, for example, in Red Dead 2, you have here's some points for it being a historical fiction thing. They had like the women's protest, so that way they can gain the right to vote, which they wouldn't get until the only good thing that Wilson did in making that an amendment. Then you also had the KKK, which, funny thing, if you just watch the KKK burn, or you watch the crosses like land on top of them, and you're just around, and then they look and start complaining, you'll get like high honor for that.
Well, yeah.
It is the most glorious thing ever, and it's so much fun just like stumbling across them. It's like, all right, let's see these guys fail epically.
Yeah, right.
And then I saw like
hilarious.
And I saw another YouTube video where a guy took black NPC to the KKK, and then they started cheering like, guys, why are you doing that? Can't they just like let the crosses fall on top of them, or watch them light themselves on fire? Like, come on already. Still funny nonetheless.
That is true. Anyways.
Yep, that's all we got that's all we got for this week. Feel free to tune in a couple weeks, and when Tyler just kind of goes ham on the whole Castlevania subject.
Correct.
And I'm just going to keep on.
I'm going to have fun with that.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have fun with that thing. And I'm going to keep on recovering my leg. And I'm going to send Tyler some updated photos on how the leg looks. I mean, it's still pretty screwed up, but it's better. Yeah. It's a lot better. It's not so much black bruising. It's now like red and yellow. Yay.
Yay. But anyways.
Yep. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Yes, we will see you in 2 weeks.